Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Deep Daily Editorial Enrichment Program of La Excellence IAS. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 20th May 2019. The first article, Count on Democracy. You all know that the polling is concluded. In this context, let's do an introspection and try to understand how did we fare well on to this. There are two things that we need to talk about. The first is institutions. The most reputed institution in India was the Election Commission. But today, the Election Commission came under test during this general election. Either it is Model Code of Conduct or one of the election commissioners asking to represent his dissent note on the decisions related to Model Code of Conduct or with regard to the decisions to conduct the elections in this long 7-phase poll. Under all these things, institution is said to have lost its credibility and integrity. Restoring its credibility and integrity is the primary objective to ensure the procedural democracy in the country. Now, our Election Commission of India is a multi-member body. As of now, Chief Election Commissioner plus 2 other election commissioners exist. These 3 election commissioners are appointed by the President of India, not by the recommendation of a group of people called as collegium. Tarapunde committee has recommended for appointment of the election commissioners through a collegium consisting of Chief Justice of India, Prime Minister, these people. So India shall think on appointment of the election commissioners. Second, the seniority principle for promotion of election commissioners at the CEC is failing. There is no guarantee that an election commissioner, senior most election commissioner, will be appointed as CEC. The government can bring an outsider and can post him as the Chief Election Commissioner. So as like in the Supreme Court, the senior most judge where he becomes the Chief Justice of India, the same way a senior most election commissioner shall become the Chief Election Commissioner. And the third thing is, there is no clarity on the removal of the other election commissioners. Only CAC can be removed as like the judge of the Supreme Court. There is no guarantee of what you call as a job for other election commissioners. They can be removed by President of India. Only protection which he has is the Chief Election Commissioner need to be consulted while he is being removed from his office. Now, the second thing that is coming into question is the political propaganda. So most of this political propaganda is emotive rather than informative. And what is the purpose of election campaigning? It is making the people aware of the policies, programs, agenda of a given political party and seeking the vote from them. But today, misinformation has become the objective of the elections. So, India is divided like never before. The real issues like education, jobs, livelihoods did not come into election campaign, but community, caste, they all entered into the election campaign like never before. These need to be corrected. The task of restoring democracy. So in this, the article says that the democracy across the world is facing a crisis. This crisis is majorly coming from right-wing conservative political parties. You know that elections to the European Parliament are on the way, and Indian general elections got just finished. In the European Parliament elections, the right-wing political parties across Italy, Spain, Hungary, Austria, they are getting consolidated. In Italy especially, Mussolini's fascist parties are rising again. So in that way, the conservative elements are polarizing the people like never before. Then this can be considered as a great threat to democracy. Previously, the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, these are said to be the emerging economies and the hope of the world. Today, Brazil, Russia, China, these 3 are filled with the totalitarian regimes. And the next is, in this context, to protect the democracy, what shall we do? The first is democratic institutions need to be protected. As I told to you many a times, democracy stands on the pillars of democratic institutions. If democratic institutions fail, democracy fails. So when these democratic institutions are failing to work due to the ruling regimes, obviously democracy is said to be in the danger. If you take in India, Supreme Court, today Election Commission, CBI, every other institution is expected to be facing an uprooting. So, how to protect these democratic institutions? It is through the awareness of the civil society, active presence of the civil society. So, a strong civil society or people's voice is essential to protect the democracy. Not in the Mahatma's name. So this is about Sadhvi Pragya Singh Thakur's recent comments on Godse. Now, you know Godse was the killer of Mahatma Gandhi. In this context, Godse's speech during his trial after killing of Mahatma is a glaring endorsement of Hindutva. So, Savarkar was his guru. In this context, the blood on the hands of the Godse is also on the hands of the Savarkar. And the second, to understand Mahatma himself, a kind of broadened hearts and minds are necessary. Mahatma, he himself has stated that he is a man of principles and he will not deviate from that even at a gunpoint. So, whatever syncretic culture Mahatma Gandhi has provided, it is difficult to understand, difficult to be understood by the people who are narrow and conservative in their outlook. That is what is the essence of this article. Taking stock of Islamic State too. So, Islamic State 2, what does that mean? It means Islamic State 1 and 2, there is a clear improvement. So, Islamic State 1, it was reflected by a caliphate in Iraq and Syria and lone wolf attacks, especially in the Western world. And it was guided by Salafi Wahhabism. And there is a clear leadership to direct the attacks. But Islamic State 2, here the caliphate is no more existing. The caliphate is only online. And then most of the people from Syria and Iraq, they are returning home. So that's why a homegrown terrorism through the radicalized youth in Iraq and Syria is increasing. So rather than in West, it is this violence is prominent today in the East. And in the place of the lone wolf attacks, what today we have is strategically synchronized attacks across the multiple places. That is what exactly happened in the case of Sri Lanka. So in this case, the Islamic State too is becoming more powerful as a propaganda machinery, and it is leaderless, directionless, and it is happening across the world, especially from the recruiting grounds in South Asia. Till now, India, Sri Lanka felt that they are not getting influenced by the Islamic State. But the Easter Sunday attacks in Sri Lanka proves it as wrong. It is the time India shall gear up its investigative agencies, law and order machinery to fight this menace. That is what this article talks about. And then platforms of our own. Let's take, you have Facebook, Twitter. All these headquarters, where they are located? They are located in United States of America. So in that context, our data is being held by a foreign company. And then they are able to understand our behavioral patterns. All these things are not good for the India or any sovereign country for that particular matter. So what is the way forward over here? India shall be able to control this particular thing, and data localization it is prescribing. And the Western countries, especially Donald Trump, he is talking against to this data localization. So transparency and democracy, if it has to be protected, the sovereign control over the data is necessary. That is the article. And the second thing is, recently social media platforms also have developed certain artificial intelligence and machine learning tools to improvise this particular system. And the next is Sri Lanka 10 years on. You know that civil war in Sri Lanka got ended 10 years back. The issues still remain. What are they? Rehabilitation and reconciliation between the groups. And the second, the resettlement of the Tamils. providing for wartime or justice to the wartime crimes, and finally, constitutional amendment. So, rehabilitation, resettlement, justice, and constitutional amendment, all these three, these did not move forward even today. And the second thing, after Easter Sunday attacks, all of a sudden, new terror laws, new surveillance systems, these have come into existence. So the Sri Lanka, for in the long term, it has to focus on reconciling between the groups and having a stable federal democracy for the people to live reconciled and happy. That's what this article essence is. Thank you very much. Have a good day. All the best.